Hello friends, I am Heidi and welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, I really hope to see you back here again. Listen, this video is just a really quick one. I'm showing you another way to finish up a Quilt-As-You-Go project. I can't call this a quilt because it's not going to be a quilt. It's going to be a table runner. And it's in, kind of a Christmassy holiday theme, which is really what's coming up right now. We've finished up Thanksgiving and it's time to enjoy the festivities of the next holidays coming up. So stick around. I'll see you on the other side. I've had this jelly roll sitting in my stash for quite some time, a couple of years or more. And I saw this, and with Christmas coming up, I thought this would be really appropriate for doing a Christmas table runner using the log cabin square. I decided, though, I'm not going to be using that one. I'm not particularly fond of that blue mixed in there with all of the others. For the other side of the log cabin, I went through my stash of fabric, and I found these variations of white that I thought would look good. Then I also found, actually in my scrap pile, a strip of red, which I think is perfect. You know, that's pretty traditional with the log cabin quilt, is to put the red in the center. Since my strips are already cut for me at 2.5 inches, I'm going to go ahead and cut 2.5 inch strips out of these here. I have all my strips cut, and I did cut the red into the 2.5 inch squares. I also have them arranged in the order that I will be using them. I have cut my cotton batting to roughly 12 inches square. This will make a 10.5 inch square. Just so you know the arrangement I'm doing with this, all my white background fabric is going to be on one side. So there'll be adjoining sides for my white background fabric. The Christmas fabric will be on the opposite two adjoining sides. Them arranged so that I will use this fabric on the two adjoining sides and this fabric on two adjoining sides. I'm using the Warm and Natural cotton batting, and I folded it into fours just so that I know where center is. That way I know exactly where to throw in my red square. Squaring it up best I can with the sides of the batting. Take my first color, which is the white, and I lay it across one of the sides and stitch down a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, I pressed my fabric open, and what I like to do when I'm doing this, I want to make sure everything stays very square. You have to cut this when doing Quilt-As-You-Go. You can't cut it with a rotary cutter because you'll cut right through the batting. So I like to take my fabric erase pen, mark my line, cut it, and then that just ensures that everything's going to stay square. Have that cut, and when I've started with the white, my white side, I'm going to continue with my white side. Take my second white, and I'm going to turn this counterclockwise. Lay my next piece right over this edge over here, and again sew down 1/4 inch seam allowance. I don't go all the way. I try to go just to the piece underneath because I need to cut this. I have the second white sewn on and trimmed. Now it's time to start using the colors from the Christmas fabric side. The first one is the red and white striped. I'm always rotating my piece counterclockwise. Once I get past the point of using this one, once this is sewn on, I'm going to be adding on to the side that has 2 seams on the outside edge. So I'll go ahead and line this one up and sew it on. Just a side note, if you've ever gotten jelly rolls or any other fabric that has the pinking edge, and you've wondered which edge that you go by as far as your seam allowance, if you measure the valley to the valley, that's 2.5 inches. So side edge is actually excess. So you want to be sure that you're lining your other fabric that has a straight edge up with the valley part of the pinking. I have turned counterclockwise, but if you get confused, again, I have 2 seams here on this edge. So this is the edge I'm going to sew my next Christmas fabric to, which would be the second one. Line that up, sew it, and come back. Just completed the second strip of the Christmas side. Now it's time to go back to the white. Again, this 2 seams are here, so this is where I'm going to put my third white actually. I'll go ahead and do that. All right, it's time for the final white background piece to go on this particular square. 2 seams, line that up. All right, my third Christmas fabric is what comes on next. It is time for the final strip of the Christmas fabric. This is my favorite print of the whole pack. I mean, come on, look. It's cute. This is why I bought this package. I love this little bus. All right, we'll sew that on and we'll be done with this square. Just wanted to give you another tip. You know, when you're doing your trimming and you're using this edge here of your previous steps to mark this strip that you need to cut, it's a really good idea to also use the lines going the other direction on the actual seams, because then you're going to be able, you will totally be staying square with your piece if you're staying square with your seams. I have the first square done. I'm going to be doing a total of 5, so I have 4 more to do. I will go ahead and do the rest of those off camera and come back for the next step. I've trimmed and squared all the blocks, and for me that is at 10 3/8 inches. And I'm going to orientate the blocks all in the same direction. And we'll go ahead and take these to the sewing machine now and get those sewn together. I have my raw edges all lined up. One thing nice about this is there are no seams to match, just making sure that you have all your edges matching and you're good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and do a 1/4 inch seam allowance on this, and I will go ahead and just assemble all of them together. With this particular method of finishing a Quilt-As-You-Go, I'm going to go to the iron now and press these seam allowances open. Instead of one direction, I'm going to split them open, just like so. Something that I'm doing here is I'm actually trimming the ends before I press them open. That way when I go to put the binding on, there'll be less bulk here on the ends. I have all my squares sewn together, and now I'm just going to be finishing it up pretty much as normal. I will be putting together a backing that's cut and trimmed to exactly the same size as the runner. I do have my backing pinned on, and I'm doing it in white, and I switched my top thread to a gray. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch up my thread here first. I am going to stitch along the joinery of the blocks, and there's one strip here that is a continual line. I'm going to stitch, not in the ditch, but I'm going to stitch along the ditch on that long line of that strip, about 1/8 of an inch away from the ditch. I'm going to do that on each joinery of the blocks, and then also I'm going to switch my thread to red, and I'm going to stitch the center block all the way around in the square. And then that'll finish up the joining of the backing to the top. And then I will go ahead and do the binding just as you would do as normal. I'm also switching my stitch length to a 3.0. That's just a preference for me whenever I'm doing a top stitch that isn't free motion quilting. I will show you the final product.